They built 96 houses on my land, not by mistake, on purpose. I inherited 47 acres of Colorado pine from my grandfather, paid off, untouched, worth about $4 million today. I drove up after 3 years away to scatter his ashes and found a whole subdivision where my forest used to stand. Paved cul-de-sacs, street lamps, young families hauling sectionals into homes they had paid $485,000 each to own. The HOA president, a woman who had never lifted anything heavier than a champagne flute, told me to my face I was a squatter trying to con honest people. She said her lawyer had confirmed the land was abandoned, adverse possession made it theirs, and she had already banked $16 million in pre-sales. I did nothing. I let them pour foundations, frame walls, hang drywall, install pools. Then I walked into court with the 1971 deed and watched the room go quiet. I am Russell Bennett, 47, structural engineer, divorced, driving a 2008 Silverado that drinks a quart of oil every month. Nothing remarkable about me except one thing. My grandfather Harold Bennett bought that land in 1971 for $8,200 cash after selling his small hardware store in Denver's Five Points neighborhood. He was a Depression kid who never trusted banks, kept every receipt in leather ledgers that still smell like cherry tobacco and machine oil, the kind of scent that lingers in your fingers long after the pages are closed. When he died in 2019 at 92, he left me the deed with a single line tucked inside on a yellowed index card. Do not let the bastards take what is yours. I had not visited in 3 years, divorce papers still fresh in the glove box, kids in college, 70-hour weeks chasing deadlines on bridge retrofits. But I paid the property taxes every April, $6,400, never late, always online through the county portal. I had the emailed confirmation stacked in a folder labeled Legacy, right next to the one labeled Divorce. August 2022, I turned off Highway 36 onto the old logging road, the one Granddad had graveled himself in the 70s with a borrowed cat and a thermos of coffee strong enough to wake the dead. My tires crunched over fresh asphalt where pine needles used to fall like slow brown snow. My heart stopped. The pines were gone, stumps bulldozed into neat rows like fallen soldiers, their rings telling stories no one would ever read. In their place stood 96 stucco boxes with fake balconies and HOA beige, so uniform it hurt to look at, the color of surrender. A stone sign at the entrance announced Summit Ridge Estates, a luxury community by Langford Homes, complete with a water feature that gurgled like it was apologizing for existing. I checked GPS 3 times, then the deed coordinates on my phone, then the paper deed in the passenger seat. Same parcel. My land. At the gate a guard in a navy polo with a badge that read Ray waved me down. Residents only, sir. I own this, I said, holding up the deed on my phone. The screen cracked from the time Claire dropped it during a camping trip into San Juan's. He smirked like I had offered a coupon for free air and reached for his radio. A white Escalade rolled up smooth as a shark cutting water. Out stepped Victoria Langford, mid-50s, Botox smooth, linen pants that cost more than my truck payment, sunglasses reflecting my dusty Silverado like a bad omen. She sized me up, work boots caked with sight mud from a job in Aurora, Carhartt jacket faded from too many sunsets on I-70, grease under the nails from last night's carburetor rebuild on the neighbor's lawnmower, and filed me under irrelevant before I spoke. Problem? She asked the guard without looking at me, voice crisp as fall apples picked too early. This man says he owns the development. Victoria turned slowly, the way people do when they are about to deliver a line they have practiced in the mirror while applying lipstick the color of fresh blood. How precious. If you need day labor, most crews are full, but leave your number with Ray. She gestured to the guard like he was furniture that had learned to stand. I am the legal owner. Harold Bennett, my grandfather. She scrolled her phone with a diamond pinky nail that caught the sun like a warning flare, the kind that says do not proceed. Our title search showed abandonment exceeding 3 years. Colorado Statute 38-41-101, adverse possession. The land reverted to public domain for development. I pay taxes every year. $6,400, April 15th, like clockwork, online through the county portal, confirmation emails printed and filed. Her smile sharpened into something that could slice bread without leaving crumbs. You know just enough to be a nuisance. She handed me a card like it carried plague, thick stock, embossed gold lettering. Gregory Hale, our counsel. He will explain why your claim is frivolous. All 96 lots sold. $16 million deposited. Families move in by Thanksgiving. She photographed my license plate with a practiced flick, the shutter sound loud in the mountain silence. Just in case you return to damaged property. People like you do not win against people like us. She slid back into the Escalade, window whispering up like a guillotine, falling in slow motion. I drove home shaking so hard the steering wheel vibrated, the Silverado's worn shocks rattling over every pothole like accusations. That night, I spread Granddad's papers across the kitchen table under the single bulb that buzzed like an angry bee above the Formica. 1971 deed with the county seal still crisp despite 51 Colorado winters, 47 tax receipts in chronological order, survey plats folded so many times the creases felt like braille under my thumbs, a Polaroid of Granddad standing beside the first pine he planted, arms crossed, grin wide as the sky. Victoria had threatened me, photographed my truck, implied I was a vandal who might torch model homes with families inside. She had also handed me the rope, the noose, and the tree. Monday, I called Gregory Hale. His assistant had the polished voice of someone paid to make problems disappear into offshore accounts. Mr. Hale is in depositions all week. Can I take a message? Russell Bennett about the Summit Ridge property. Pause long enough for her to check a list. Oh yes. Mr. Hale anticipated your call. He is authorized to offer a nuisance settlement of $15,000 if you sign a quitclaim deed by Friday. $15,000 for $4 million of timber and memory for the place Granddad taught me to fish with a coffee can and a safety pin. I had signed worse papers in my divorce, giving away the Branson timeshare neither of us wanted, the one with the leaky roof and the neighbor who played saxophone at 3 a.m. Quitclaim deeds are the legal equivalent of saying I give up, do not even care if I am right, take my name off the title, and pretend I never existed. Tell Mr. Hale I will see him in court, I said and hung up before she could respond with the scripted sympathy that costs extra. I needed a real lawyer, not the guy who charged me $2,200 to split the china my mother left me. My old army buddy Paul in Cheyenne gave me one name, Margaret Walsh. She had once forced a pipeline company to reroute around a pioneer cemetery outside Laramie, cost them 8 figures in delays, and still made them plant wildflowers every spring for a decade. Consultation, $500. I paid it with a credit card that groaned like the Silverado's transmission and prayed the limit held long enough to fight. Margaret's office smelled of lemon polish and old paper, the kind of scent that says money has been here for generations and plans to stay. 60 years old, steel gray bun pinned like a crown, reading glasses on a silver chain that caught the light from a brass desk lamp older than I was. She listened without blinking, made notes in handwriting neater than any font I had ever seen on a structural drawing. When I finished, she tapped the tax folder with a pen that probably cost more than my boots, the ones with the steel toe I wore when I inspected bridge welds in January blizzards. Adverse possession requires 18 years of open, hostile, continuous possession and payment of taxes. You paid. Their claim is dead on arrival. I can get an injunction, stop construction today, have the sheriff out there by noon with a cease and desist taped to every porta-potty. She closed the folder like a judge's gavel falling in a silent room. Or you let them finish. I stared, the words hanging in the air like smoke from a misfired engine. Stop now and Victoria bankruptcies the company tomorrow. Your land ties up for 3 to 5 years while 96 families sue everyone in sight. Banks, insurers, title companies, you for emotional distress because little Timmy's swing set is in legal limbo. Legal whack-a-mole with discovery that lasts longer than a presidential term. Let them finish and you own 96 completed houses, turnkey, move-in ready. Fraud becomes their prison sentence or your 8-figure settlement. Surprise is worth more than gold, and they just handed you the vault. I hired her on the spot, signed the retainer with a pen that felt heavier than any beam I had ever lifted. $40,000 in fees, maybe $50, but the court would award damages and attorney's fees if we won, and Margaret did not lose. I had $12,000 in savings, a transmission on the verge of surrender, Claire's spring tuition due in January, Ethan's car insurance about to lapse because he rear-ended a Prius while texting about midterms. I would figure it out, I heard myself say, the same words I used when the divorce mediator asked if I could afford alimony on a civil engineer's salary, the same words I used when Granddad asked if I could keep the land after he was gone. I drove past the site twice a week, parked on the county road shoulder where wild rye brushed the fender like old friends saying hello, camera rolling on a tripod suction cup to the dash, timestamped, geotagged, cloud backed up to 3 different servers because paranoia is just another word for preparation. Framers swarmed like ants on a sugar cube, their nail guns popping in perfect rhythm. Roofers hammered in perfect rhythm, their radios blasting classic rock that echoed off the bare studs. Painters rolled beige so thick it looked wet, the color of surrender, the color of every house in every suburb where individuality goes to die. Victoria spotted me in week 3, standing beside her white hard hat that matched her Escalade, phone to ear, gesturing at my truck like it was a biohazard that might infect her perfect world. 20 minutes later, Deputy Alvarez pulled behind me, lights flashing, but no siren, the polite version of a warning that says we both know who pays for my body cam. Mrs. Langford says you are harassing residents, taking photos of children on swing sets. I am documenting construction on my property. Parcel 559-324-08, owner Russell Bennett, taxes paid in full. He ran my plates, came back sweating under the August sun that turned his uniform dark at the collar. If she calls again saying you threatened anyone, I have to act. Translation, she funds the sheriff's new drones, you fund your own gas and grief. I kept shooting, the camera lens staring back at her like an unblinking eye. November brought the first move-ins, the air thick with the smell of fresh paint and possibility, and the faint undercurrent of panic that comes when you realize you just spent your life savings on a dream someone else might wake you from. U-Hauls blocked cul-de-sacs like orange roadblocks, their ramps down like surrender flags. Kids on scooters traced figure eights around moving boxes, their laughter sharp as broken glass. The smell of pizza delivery, mixed with cut pine from the framing lumber, still stacked in piles. I watched a young couple, maybe 30, plant a sugar maple in the front yard of Lot 43, the wife cradling a toddler on her hip while the husband tamped soil with the back of a shovel, the tree's roots wrapped in burlap like a promise. I felt sick, the kind of nausea that sits in your throat and refuses to leave. These were not villains. They were collateral damage in a war they did not know existed, pawns in a game where the queen wore linen and a smile sharp as a scalpel. Thanksgiving week, Victoria sent a certified letter, return receipt demanded, the kind that makes the postal clerk raise an eyebrow. I signed for it at the post office where the clerk, a woman named Deb who had known Granddad since she was in pigtails, wrinkled her nose at the Langford Homes logo embossed in gold. That the lady building those McMansions on Old Mill Road? My sister tried to buy one, for $85 for 1,800 square feet, highway robbery, and the HOA fees could choke a horse. I opened it in the truck, the cab still smelling of coffee and the pine air freshener Claire gave me as a joke. 3 pages of legalese boiling down to stop trespassing, or we will sue for harassment, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Attached was a photo of my Silverado parked on the public road, license plate circled in red Sharpie, time-stamped, geotagged. Handwritten in the margin in Victoria's looping script, document everything. I drove straight to Margaret's office, the letter trembling slightly in my hand like a leaf in wind. She read it, then laughed the kind of laugh that starts in the belly and ends in a cough that sounds like victory. They are documenting their own fraud. Every letter, every photo, every interaction is evidence they knew there was a dispute and kept building. This is beautiful, Russell. Beautiful like a confession signed in blood. December 3rd, code enforcement showed up for illegal dumping, a white county truck with flashing amber lights pulling up to the gate like it was a crime scene. Inspector Tom Harlan, 50, sunburned, county vest stretched tight over a belly earned from too many diner breakfasts, clipboard in hand, walked the perimeter behind the houses, checked retention ponds, kicked at the fresh sod with the toe of his boot. Finally, he came back shaking his head, the kind of shake that says I have seen this movie before and know how it ends. Nothing here but new sod and a lie. Anonymous tip from Mrs. Langford's office came through her assistant's email. Off the record, I have inspected 6 Langford projects in 3 counties. Every single one had complaints filed against neighboring landowners right before permits approved. It is a pattern, Russell. A pattern with her fingerprints all over it. He handed me his card, the edges worn from too many pockets. Call if you need a witness. I will be retired in 6 months and have nothing to lose. Christmas week, Victoria posted on the county Facebook watch page, the one with the profile picture of a golden retriever wearing a Santa hat. Local predator Russell Bennett stalks children at Summit Ridge Estates, taking photos from his truck, license plate visible. Hashtag Stop Russell Bennett. 800 shares overnight, the kind of viral that spreads faster than wildfire in August. My daughter Claire called at 11 p.m., voice trembling like the aspens in wind. Dad, are you in jail? Someone posted you were harassing families, that you were on some list. My son Ethan's boss, a man who had promoted him twice, asked if there was anything he should know about his father's character. My own boss at the engineering firm put me on paid leave pending resolution. His email polite but cold, the kind of cold that says we like you but not enough to risk a lawsuit. Someone spray-painted pervert on my garage in dripping red letters that ran like blood in the morning dew. I slept with a Louisville slugger by the bed and the motion lights on stun, the kind of sleep that is not sleep at all, just waiting for the next shoe to drop. January 4th, Margaret filed declaratory judgment, an emergency TRO. The paperwork thick as a phone book, every page a brick in the wall we were building. January 12th, first hearing in Boulder County Courthouse, the one with the brass railings polished by a century of nervous hands and the smell of floor wax that never quite covers old fear. Margaret produced Kenneth's internal email dated February 2022, blown up to poster size on foam board that cost more than my first car. Bennett parcel not abandoned. Taxes paid continuously since 2019. Adverse possession will fail in court. Move fast, file claim, get permits approved, start selling lots before anyone notices. Create enough chaos that Bennett either settles cheap or gets buried in litigation costs. Worst case, build everything, file bankruptcy, let title insurance sort it out. We have done this before. Aspen Project 2019. Risk medium, reward 16 million gross. The judge, Angela Ramirez, 50-something with reading glasses perched on a nose that had seen every kind of lie, denied dismissal, froze sales pending resolution, warned Victoria one more post or anonymous tip meant contempt of court and a night in County Orange. Kenneth went the color of printer paper left in the sun. Victoria's hands shook so hard her diamond bracelet rattled like dice in a cup. Depositions followed like clockwork in a glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor of a Denver high-rise, the Rockies looming outside like silent witnesses. Kenneth sweated through Egyptian cotton, his tie loosening with every question, voice cracking when Margaret asked him to read his own email aloud. The title company representative, a nervous man named Patel, admitted a $45,000 consulting fee wired to an LLC in the Caymans the same week permits were fast-tracked. Tom Harlan testified to the complaint pattern across 6 projects, his voice steady as the rebar he inspected for a living. Margaret added RICO for pattern fraud across state lines, treble damages possible, $48 million if we proved intent, the kind of number that makes even rich men sweat. January 23rd, a private investigator visited Ethan's restaurant, a hipster barbecue joint in Fort Collins where the brisket sold out by 8. He asked the manager if Dad had a temper, if there were incidents of violence, if Ethan felt safe going home for Thanksgiving. Ethan called me from the walk-in cooler, voice low so the line cooks would not hear. Dad, he tried to get me fired. Said you were unstable. January 25th, IRS audit notice, anonymous tip, 3 years of returns flagged for irregularities that did not exist because my taxes were as clean as Granddad's ledgers. January 30th, Channel 7 Denver interviewed me in my living room, the one with the scuffed coffee table and the photo of Granddad holding a stringer of trout from the Poudre River, his grin wide as the sky. The segment aired February 2nd, 3 million views by morning, the anchor calling it the most brazen land grab in Colorado history. That night someone broke into my house, jimmied the back door with a crowbar that left splinters like accusations. Left a single sheet on the kitchen table in block letters. Drop it or lose everything. Neighbor Carol, 72, retired librarian with binoculars and a memory like a steel trap, saw a black Audi SUV, plate KLM, 4892, idling across the street at noon. I traced it to Apex Investigations, the same firm Victoria hired to photograph my license plate. February 9th, trial day. Courtroom 3C packed with 40 homeowners clutching mortgage papers like life vests in a storm, their faces a mix of hope and terror. Margaret's opening was quiet thunder that rolled through the room. Theft in boardrooms with LLCs and forged documents, not in alleys with masks and guns. She entered Granddad's ledgers, the tobacco-scented pages yellowed but proud, tax emails printed in color, Kenneth's smoking gun message blown up poster size, so large the jury could read it from the back row. Kenneth crumbled on the stand, voice cracking, contradicting his deposition until his own lawyer looked ready to object to his client's existence. Victoria took the fifth, arms crossed so tight her knuckles went white, her linen suit suddenly looking like a costume that no longer fit. At 4:47 p.m., Judge Ramirez recessed for ruling, her gavel falling like the period at the end of a very long sentence. Next morning, 18 pages delivered to my inbox before coffee brewed. We won everything. Full title to 47 acres including 96 completed homes, for $0.2 million damages for trespass, emotional distress, loss of use, $73,000 attorney's fees, criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney for mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. Langford Homes dissolved within a week, the LLC paperwork filed by a paralegal who looked relieved to be done. Kenneth indicted on 6 federal counts. Bail denied because the judge said flight risk in a private jet. Victoria pled to 3 years probation, $500,000 restitution, lifetime ban from Colorado real estate development. Her face on the news looking smaller than I remembered. The title company lost its license, stock plummeted, executives lawyered up. Gregory Hale resigned to avoid disbarment, his website scrubbed by morning. March 15th, I called a town hall in the unfinished clubhouse, the one Victoria had promised with marble counters and a wine fridge that would chill Chardonnay to exactly 52 degrees. All 96 families came, crammed shoulder to shoulder, some holding toddlers who chewed on moving box corners, others clutching folders of closing documents like shields. I stood with Margaret at the front, the projector warm against my calf, the screen flickering to life with a simple slide. A new legacy. I am not here to evict you. I started, my voice steadier than I felt. You bought in good faith. You are victims, same as me. I am creating the Summit Ridge Community Trust, a nonprofit incorporated yesterday under Colorado law. Each family will own their home through the trust at the price you paid, 0 interest, payments to the trust for roads, taxes, maintenance, playgrounds, whatever you vote to fund. Surplus funds a $10,000 annual scholarship in Harold Bennett's name for engineering or forestry students, because my grandfather believed land was for building futures, not just houses. Someone gasped. A woman in the back, the one who planted the sugar maple, started crying, not sad tears, grateful ones that ran down her cheeks and dripped onto her toddler's hair. Applause started slow, then built like a mountain storm rolling down the front range. A retired couple, the Garcias from Lot 62, hugged me so hard my ribs creaked. Mr. Garcia whispering in my ear, "You are a good man, Mr. Bennett. Your grandfather raised you right." I kept 5 acres of old-growth pine at the north end, the part Granddad refused to log even when lumber prices spiked in the 80s and the bank offered to float him a loan he did not need. Built a small cabin, 2 bedrooms, cedar siding that smells like Christmas when the sun hits it, wraparound porch where the sunrise paints the peaks pink and the coffee tastes like forgiveness. Sold the townhouse in Denver, the one with the leaky faucet and the neighbor who played saxophone at 3 a.m., moved in last October with a U-Haul full of tools and memories. Wake up to pine resin and coffee brewing in a percolator Granddad would have approved of. Watch mule deer graze where survey stakes used to stand like tiny gravestones. Claire and Ethan visit weekends. Claire bringing her law school boyfriend, who argues property theory over pancakes and cites my case in his moot court. Ethan teaching me to grill trout without burning the skin, the way Granddad taught him when he was 10. Even my ex-wife Laura came once with her new husband, a quiet accountant who nodded a lot, stood on the porch at sunset, said she was proud of how I handled the mess. The words felt strange, but good, like finding a tool you thought you lost. The scholarship launched in September, the Harold Bennett Memorial Fund, $10,000 annually. First recipient a kid from Durango whose dad lost his ranch to a developer scam just like mine, the kind of kid who knows what it means to fight for dirt. A crayon drawing from a little girl in House 43, the one with the sugar maple, hangs on my fridge, stick figure me holding a giant deed, the girl waving from a window with a smile full of missing teeth. Granddad would approve, would probably tell her to draw the deer next time. Justice is not revenge. It is receipts, patience, and refusing to blink. The network Victoria fed still has roots, Harper says, tendrils in 3 other states, but we cut the trunk and burned the stump. Sometimes that is enough. The families in Summit Ridge kept their homes, paid what they owed, no interest, no fear. The trust meets monthly in the clubhouse, now finished with secondhand furniture and a coffee pot that never empties. They vote on everything: paint colors, playground equipment, whether to allow chickens. Always chickens lose by one vote. Priya, the lawyer turned president, runs it with spreadsheets and smiles, the kind of order that heals instead of controls. So tell me in the comments, where do you draw the line when power tries to bulldoze the little guy? Have you faced false complaints, online smears, midnight intimidation because you stood your ground? Violence and injustice wear linen pants and diamond pinkies as often as ski masks and brass knuckles. Post your story, take your stand, let the next person know they are not alone. The fight is never just about the land. It is about the legacy you refuse to let them erase.